Jersey Bridgman was born on November 14, 2006, in Bentonville, Arkansas. A quiet town where neighbors knew each other and life moved slowly. After her parents divorced, Jersey split her time between two homes. Her father, who remarried and had two more daughters, lived just a short drive away. Jersey often stayed with him for a few days before returning to her mother's house. By 2012, 5-year-old Jersey was living with her mom and younger sister in a new home in the same town. The girls quickly made friends with other kids in the neighborhood. Her mother's best friend lived just a few yards away, and their families were so close. They felt like one extended household. The kids played together constantly, and it wasn't unusual for them to sleep over at each other's homes. On the night of November 19th, just 5 days after Jersey's birthday, her mother went to work her regular evening shift at a local supermarket. When neither parent was available to watch the girls, she often left them with her best friend, who was more than happy to help, especially since their kids were close. That night was no different. After finishing her shift around 11:30 p.m., Jersey's mom picked up her daughters and brought them home. Jersey went straight to bed. Her younger sister, however, wanted to sleep with their mom, who took her to her own room. At 6:30 the next morning, Jersey's mom woke up and went to get her daughter ready for school. But Jersey was gone. She searched the house, checked under beds and in closets, but there was no sign of her. In a panic, she called her own mother, who suggested Jersey might be hiding, playing a game. Still, Jersey was nowhere to be found. Stepping outside, the mother spotted her best friend sitting on her front porch. Hoping Jersey might have slipped out early to play, she asked if the child was there, but the friend hadn't seen her. She quickly joined the search. They canvassed the neighborhood and checked inside both homes, but Jersey had vanished. Her mother, now frantic, called the police. Officers arrived within minutes and began a full search of the house, then got permission to inspect the friend's property. Other officers scoured nearby streets and yards. Then they noticed something. The door to an empty house next door was slightly open. It was a small, vacant home, unoccupied. Officers called in for a search warrant, which a judge approved quickly. Room by room, they moved through the dark, empty structure. It wasn't until one officer opened a closet door in the bedroom that the horror came into full view. Inside was Jersey's body. She was unclothed. She had been strangled. It was immediately clear she was gone. Medical examiners took over. Jersey's body was sent for autopsy, and detectives launched a full investigation into what had happened during those early morning hours. Jersey's mother told police that she had left the front door unlocked that night, something she often did since her boyfriend worked overnight and didn't have a key. It was easier to leave the door open than risk waking the family. She said her boyfriend hadn't come over that night, but police began to scrutinize him closely. He had a good relationship with Jersey. He was kind to both girls, spent time with them, and was trusted. As detectives examined his alibi, another disturbing thread surfaced. Nearly a year earlier, in December 2011, Jersey had been staying at her father's house. He and his new wife had custody for the weekend, and a friend of the family was visiting. That guest heard crying behind a bedroom door. When she opened it, she found Jersey, tied to a dresser with a dog collar secured around her leg. The room was filthy, scattered with trash and dirty clothes. The guest immediately freed the girl and called police. It was only the beginning of a dark history that would unravel in the wake of Jersey's death. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Your support means a lot to us and helps us grow. A huge thank you to everyone who's been watching. Soon after discovering Jersey's body, police turned their attention to her immediate family. The girl's father and stepmother were arrested quickly after a disturbing past came to light. During questioning, they claimed they had tied Jersey to a dresser at night to keep her safe, explaining that she was a sleepwalker who might access medications or leave the house. When asked why they didn't use child gates, her father said they couldn't afford them. But investigators learned he had been using drugs and had no job, despite having 2 other children at home. Then Jersey spoke up. She told investigators the truth. She had once snuck into the kitchen for pie and snacks without permission. As punishment, her father and stepmother began tying her up at night. Sometimes they forced her to sleep on the floor, and they wouldn't let her use the bathroom. It was abuse, not protection. The case led to prison time. Her father received 18 years. His wife was sentenced to 12. Jersey's mother, unaware of the abuse, had been living with her daughter ever since. Naturally, detectives considered Jersey's father a suspect in her murder. But he had already been behind bars for months. He was ruled out. Police next turned their focus to registered sex offenders in the area. All were questioned and provided alibis. One by one, they were cleared. Around this time, the medical examiner released the preliminary autopsy results. Jersey had been strangled. There were signs of sexual assault. Forensic teams recovered a biological sample from the perpetrator and sent it for DNA testing. Detectives looked closely at Jersey's mother's boyfriend. He said he'd been working a late-night shift at a nearby store. Security footage confirmed his story, but he had taken a break during that shift, and the store was only minutes from Jersey's home. It was possible he could have left and returned without being noticed. Yet his co-workers insisted he had never left the premises. Investigators, finding no contradictions in his timeline, ruled him out. But during his interview, the boyfriend mentioned something curious. Around 3 a.m., a man named Zachary, Jersey's neighbor and the husband of her mother's best friend, had come into the store. He said he had stomach pain, bought medicine, and left. The timing raised red flags. Police had already interviewed Zachary and his wife and searched their home. Nothing stood out, until now. Zachary was brought in again. He confirmed the story. He said he woke in the night with stomach pain and, finding no medication at home, walked to the store. After returning, he eventually fell back asleep and got up around 6:30 a.m. to get his son ready for school. He cooperated fully. He gave officers a DNA sample, his fingerprints, and the clothes he wore that night. Zachary insisted he would never hurt Jersey. While waiting for the lab results, detectives dug into his past. Zachary's record was long, but mostly non-violent, involving minor offenses. What stood out more was his history of abuse. Reports showed that he had endured years of mistreatment at the hands of his stepfather, biological mother, and brother. 13 different reports had been filed over the years, but it remained unclear whether law enforcement had ever intervened. Jersey's mother painted a picture of trust. Zachary and his wife often babysat the girls. Jersey and her sister called him Uncle Zach. They played together. They visited his home almost daily. He even had a key to their house. That trust was now in question. Investigators considered the possibility that Zachary's late-night store visit was a calculated move to plant an alibi using witnesses and security footage. Then came another shift. Zachary, who had been cooperative, suddenly refused to answer further questions without a lawyer. It stunned detectives. Just days before, he had done everything asked of him. With no physical evidence yet linking him to the crime, police waited for the DNA results. In the meantime, Zachary made a surprising call, offering to take a polygraph to clear his name. They arranged the test, but the results weren't what he hoped. According to the examiner, multiple responses showed signs of deception, and detectives knew something didn't add up. Detectives' suspicions deepened after Zachary failed the polygraph test. They soon learned it was his wife who had pressured him into taking it. She had begun to question his honesty and warned that if he didn't cooperate with police, she would take the children and leave. So Zachary's decision wasn't about clearing his name, it was about holding on to his family. Shortly after the failed test, Zachary made a cryptic social media post. He admitted to making a huge mistake that would ruin his life. To investigators, it sounded like guilt, but they still lacked definitive proof. That changed on November 26th, 6 days after Jersey's murder and the day of her funeral. Lab results came back with a clear match. Forensic experts had recovered a DNA profile from the biological evidence found on Jersey's body. They had also tested Zachary's clothing. The results were damning. Nearly all of Zachary's clothing contained traces of Jersey's DNA, and the biological sample recovered from the crime scene was a match. Detectives acted immediately. As mourners gathered at the church for Jersey's funeral, police waited outside. Zachary and his wife arrived, unaware of what was coming. Officers arrested him on the spot. During interrogation, Zachary initially denied everything, but once confronted with the DNA evidence, he confessed. He told detectives that he woke up with stomach pain that night and went to find medicine. When he couldn't locate any at home, he decided to check Jersey's mother's house, a habit he and his wife had shared, since her medicine cabinet was always stocked. He knew the front door was usually left unlocked. Once inside, he noticed Jersey's bedroom door slightly open. He claimed he didn't know why he entered or what compelled him, but he woke her up and asked her to come with him. Trusting him completely, Jersey followed. Zachary led her to a nearby vacant house. There, he sexually assaulted and strangled her. He left her body in the closet. Afterward, he went to the store, bought medicine, and returned home. He later joined the search for Jersey, pretending to be just another concerned neighbor. Zachary insisted the crime wasn't premeditated, that it was spontaneous. But detectives weren't convinced. Regardless, the details he shared, many of which had never been made public, were too specific to ignore. He was charged with capital murder and held without bail. The prosecution announced they would seek the death penalty. Even his attorney didn't argue innocence. The goal now was to avoid execution. Soon after his arrest, another inmate assaulted Zachary in jail. He wasn't seriously injured, but was moved into protective custody. The trial began in spring 2015, 2.5 years after the crime. With no retraction of his confession, the proceedings moved swiftly. Zachary was convicted and sentenced to death, along with 2 additional life sentences and an extra 20 years. Before sentencing, he addressed Jersey's family. He expressed remorse and said he hoped one day they might forgive him. But his apology landed flat. The damage was irreversible. As expected, his execution was delayed by appeals. Zachary's new legal team claimed his original attorney was ineffective and that jury selection had been flawed. They also argued that Zachary had serious mental health issues and developmental delays, claiming his cognitive ability was that of an 8-year-old. Surprisingly, both Zachary's estranged mother, who had abused him in childhood, and his wife, who had once condemned him, supported the appeal. But courts weren't swayed. Independent experts determined that while Zachary had developmental challenges, he fully understood his actions and the gravity of his crime. As of early 2024, Zachary remains on death row. His legal team continues to push for a reduced sentence, but nothing has changed. The court has rejected every attempt to overturn his conviction. Meanwhile, Jersey's mother found a way to rebuild. She married the man she had been dating at the time of the tragedy, and together they had a daughter. Still, she carries the pain that this child will never know her big sister, never hear her laugh or see her smile. And for a town that once felt like family, Jersey's loss remains an open wound. Share your thoughts on this story in the comment section. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.